Hello and welcome back to Double Trouble. This is episode 7, and I am here with
Georgie.
And today we will be talking about Japanese stereotypes. I think this will be, pretty interesting, and because we both live in Japan, and I think I personally lived in America, and I've experienced what American people say about Japan, and I think you have an English father, so
Yes.
you might be able to kind of relate and talk about things that other like UK people see Japan as, some stereotypes.
Yeah, normally when I say, "Oh, I'm from Japan," they say, "Oh, you're Chinese."
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
we're not talking about racism here. But getting straight into this, we kind of did some bit of research.
Research and that. Thanks to the culture trip. Please sponsor us one day. We are waiting.
The first thing that we wrote is manga, anime, and cosplay. So basically, Japanese people love these three things: manga, anime, and cosplay.
Yes,
And what do you think of that?
it's pretty damn true.
Yeah, it is true. And for manga and anime, we know nothing about. So I'm sorry, but we can't really tell you what kind of, culture it is. But we know that a lot of people enjoy it. A lot of our friends enjoy it, especially. And about cosplay, do you know anyone that loves cosplay?
Not exactly, but I mean, when we see the news reporting on Halloween Day, Shibuya and wherever, it normally turns into a cosplay contest rather than a trick-or-treat contest.
Oh, that is true. And a lot of Japanese people do cosplay days other than Halloween. And if you go to the right places like Akihabara and places like that, a lot of people that love anime, love manga, go to those sorts of places, cosplay. It's kind of their hobby, cosplay. And it's not like, I want everyone to understand that, not all Japanese people love these three things. And some people love one more than the other. So, it's not, for me personally, I don't really have interest in three of these things. How about you?
Well, I'm in the same boat, right?
And because anime and manga, especially, Japanese people love, so me not knowing, or us not knowing any of these things, it's kind of hard because our friends talk about anime a lot,
You're right.
and we can't really talk about anime or manga, and a lot of songs from those animes are sung at karaoke's.
Yeah, there can be cultural trends.
Yeah, so we don't really know those as well. So it is in the culture, I would say.
Yeah. Good stereotype. Correct stereotype, I would say.
Yeah, it is. It is true.
True. Sushi every day or very, very frequently.
Frequently is the correct term, I would say. Every day, no, it's not every day, but Japanese people do love sushi. There's a lot of sushi restaurants, and there's a lot of kaiten sushi, I would say. And kaiten sushi is basically a restaurant where sushi is, how do you say it, is going around the tables for the customers to take, and people are just sitting at their tables, and the sushi comes to them on like a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
And then you just pick up the ones you like, and then however much you eat, you have to pay for it, basically.
Right. Well, I mean, the kaiten round tables give a factor of excitement, perhaps. Sushi itself, the simple concept, not much vegetables, so that could be one of the bad points, perhaps. But yeah, it's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, and at the kaiten sushi, the quality of the sushi isn't that good. But personally, I love kaiten sushi. But if you have a very expensive palate, I wouldn't go to a kaiten sushi. I would rather go to a kind of more expensive. Sushi can be very cheap, like $1 to up to $50. It can vary. So if you have a very expensive palate, I would recommend going to like Ginza or Tokyo Station, around those areas. Yeah, around those areas where there's a lot of more expensive, kind of better quality sushi, I would say.
But I mean, the round tables can provide expensive sushi. Of course, there are many exceptions to what we're saying.
Yeah, that's true. And there are some expensive kaiten sushi. But my first like impression of kaiten sushi isn't that expensive, so that's why I said that. And on the third thing that is written, it says Japanese people like to eat whales, dolphins, and horses, and that is a regular thing to eat.
Right. Well, I have visited one of these. Was it a whale town? Oh man, I'm gonna get cancelled on it.
Wait, you went to a whale town?
Well, a town that's synonymous with whaling.
Oh.
In Wakayama Prefecture. I think it's called Taiji. It's not as if I did any interviews but visited the museum, went to a couple of restaurants perhaps. The whaling industry is, I wouldn't say prominent because of international pressure. I think only Iceland and Norway, other than Japan, are still rather committed to it. Horse meat, well, that's less criticized, isn't it, from the international community. So you do see in, I wouldn't say high end, but somewhere along those lines, in guest houses, is what I'm saying. So horse meat, I would say, is more readily available.
That is true. How about dolphin meat? Do you know anything about that?
Not really.
Have you ever had any of these three, like whale, dolphin, or horse?
I think I had some whale during that trip. Horse meat in guest houses. Dolphin, I'm not familiar with.
I've had horse meat, and I love horse meat. Actually, it's called basashi.
Yeah.
And I tried that actually pretty recently, and I realized that it's actually delicious. And dolphin, I haven't heard of that ever, actually. And for whales, I haven't tried it. Well, I might have actually, unintentionally. But it is kind of a regular thing in Japan, and that is criticized, especially with whales. Whaling isn't that it's frowned upon. So
with horse meat, well, the reason why he said basashi, meaning horse, and sashimi is two words combined to one. And with whaling, my mother always told me that during her elementary school days, whaling was a very common dish to be served during lunch.
So the international criticism has made the whaling community kind of smaller, I would say.
Well, it is. Well, perhaps it is becoming a bit more difficult to be part of the community, you could say.
Yeah, I would say so as well. And for Japan, living in Japan, I would say this kind of segues into the next one. It says low tolerance for alcohol. In Japan, I feel like Japanese people love alcohol. And in one of these, in the Culture Trip article, it said Japanese people have a low tolerance for alcohol. And I thought that is pretty true. Would you say that's true?
Well, what's the word again? Pero? Gero? As in, when you get super drunk and your face goes red all of a sudden and not be able to cope. Bero, isn't it?
Yeah, bero.
Yeah. I mean, there's a word for it, for not being able to cope that well. I think it's fairly true.
Yeah, and, when you say a Japanese drunk person, you probably imagine a businessman with a suit, and then he's
his necktie on his head.
yeah, and face all red, stumbling on the train, sleeping on the train, and stuff like that. And that is relatively true. I've seen many of those people. Have you seen those kinds of people?
Well, from time to time. I mean, on the way back from school, especially when we got late.
Yeah.
It got a little bit nasty. Is that the right word? Ghastly, maybe.
I've seen one guy after school on the train, and I was with my friend, and on the way back, this guy was, he was kind of yelling, his face all red with, he was a sararima, and he was wearing, the tie and everything. It was all loose, the typical, what you imagine, and he was standing, and then he fell. He fell over from standing height all the way down to the ground, and the ground is really hard, you know that, and he doesn't land on his like body or anything. He lands straight on his head, and it makes like a really big thump sound, and he was probably, I don't know if he was unconscious, but it made a really bad sound, and the people working at the station came and escorted him out. But that was a really scary but like odd experience that I had. And like if you get drunk to the point where you fall over on the train, hitting your head and probably becoming unconscious, you're drinking too much, man.
It's not worth the fun.
Yeah, honestly. And Japanese people having a low tolerance, I think it's just because of the size difference, comparing the size and height of Japanese people to Americans. Americans are a lot bigger, and people say that if you are bigger, you have bigger and higher tolerance for alcohol.
Okay.
So I guess that could be the reason, but just Japanese people love to drink alcohol. So maybe from other countries, people think they drink a lot and they have low tolerance, which is a really bad image.
It's a bad mix.
It really is. And this other one was kind of interesting.
You're offended by it. Let's be real.
I was offended by it. It says, okay, can you read it?
No alcohol that tastes good other than sake.
So this stereotype is basically saying there's no good or tasty alcohol other than Nihonshu, sake.
Yeah, so we could say beer's not good, wine's not good, gin's not good, whatever.
But I would say that is incorrect.
Okay, tell me how.
Because I feel like in Japan there is so many varieties, from sweet to those strong ones, and when you go to the convenience store, there's those like hundreds of varieties of alcohol that you can buy, and the 3% alcohol ones are very tasty.
Okay.
They're really good. And I don't know. I don't know, but my friends, my senpai have told me,
Okay.
and they say that is very good.
Okay.
And I believe them. So and get a bit techie, but I believe this stereotype is incorrect, and I think that it's the opposite. I feel like Nihonshu has a very bad reputation. I never had it, of course. But, I don't know why this stereotype is saying specifically sake is the only good thing. I feel like sake is the only bad thing.
Yeah, okay.
In my opinion.
I can never tell, okay.
Hey, well, I try to run. I can never tell as well. It's all from senpai, I don't know, and I only drink karipis. That's it. All right. Moving on. This one is kind of funny for me. Japan is bitter towards Americans because of what happened in back then during the war.
World War II is something we can mention. It's not censored, alright. Well, there was a little description after the title, and it said that's absolutely false, but they still put it on the article for whatever reason. It's just a funny stereotype if it is true.
I don't know if I should say this.
Okay.
But we might have to bleep this out. But I feel like Japanese people hate Koreans more than Americans.
What's so controversial about that? Is it controversial?
It's not controversial, but it's kind of a sensitive topic, is it not?
I wouldn't think too serious about it. Yeah, the relationship between Korea and China, uh, it's all entering into this endless rabbit hole.
Oh boy.
But I think it's safe to say that there's a bit of a love-hate relationship
No.
with those two, much more so than Americans.
Yeah, that is true. And I feel like Japanese people like Koreans more than Koreans like Japanese people.
Okay.
Oh boy. Now that's a censor moment.
Hot topic, hot takes.
Well, it's because, K-pop and Korean culture, Japanese people, Japanese girls especially, love. So, they're kind of geared towards, I want to go to Korea and stuff like that. And a lot of my friends from high school go to Korea because of their, love towards K-pop.
Soft power.
Yeah. And Korean culture. But, for Japan, I don't really have the image of Korean people coming to Japan because they love the culture or anything like that. This is just, I'm dead.
So you think, at the moment, Korean soft power is more intriguing towards Japanese people than the other way around?
Oh boy.
I mean, just say how it feels.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, if you're ignorant, then please let us know in the comments. We'll take it.
We'll do a debate in the comments. It's fine. And this next one, it says Japan is the weirdest country in the world.
I don't mind with that one.
You don't mind?
I don't mind with it.
Honestly, me too. But I feel like it comes purely off of stereotypes, like the cosplay one. I feel like a lot of people from around the world think that Japanese people do cosplay every single day, and everyone does it, basically. And it's, I would say it's kind of, it's kind of true, but, it's a minority. Only a small percentage of people do cosplay, and I would say the majority of people like anime.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't call it weird because of that. Do you think there's other reasons why we're quote unquote the weirdest country in the world?
Well, I can't think of examples at the top of my head. I'm sure there are many, but it's just that because Japan, again, we talk about history a little bit, cut themselves off for 200 years during Sakoku era, from about 1600 until Mr. Big Man Perry came in. So during that time, they were forced to create their own culture. Most countries have borders and culture exchange. While Japan, a country that has isolated themselves from 200 years, that's quite a rare thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the influence on that creating weird cultures, I think it's safe to say that has a butterfly effect.
No, okay. I mean, I just thought of one that's completely different to anime and stuff. I just thought that, from when watching foreign YouTubers, a lot of YouTubers react to weird commercials,
Yeah.
Japanese commercials. And the commercials that are showcased in those reaction vlogs or reaction videos, are very weird to us as well. And I've never seen those on air. They're probably really old. And should we explain the gaming culture while we're at it?
Yeah, tell me.
So I saw this one commercial that a YouTuber was reacting to. It was a chocolate candy commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 4 gaming, I would say comedians, were on it. And, the faces were turned into a chocolate ball, basically. And, they were walking like a bird because it was the logo of that brand was a bird. And they were acting like birds, and their head was made of chocolate. And, I feel like those kinds of commercials are made because of this comedian type or gaming type culture. And I wouldn't translate gaming to comedian.
No.
How would you say it?
Well, maybe say talento in katakana.
Talento.
Yeah, you have to be a bit of an all-rounder, you could say, in Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a bit of stand-up, as in manzai or something.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to be part of a TV panel. You got to be able to give comments here and there for everyday news, perhaps sometimes. you have to be part of the commercials. Just to have real success in Japanese TV, you got to be able to do a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's difficult to categorize these people, I would say.
Yeah, and I feel like they do these ridiculous commercials and stuff because they have that persona. They built that persona of being the weird and funky geinin. And a lot of people, when they see that commercial, might say, oh, that's very funny. I might, keep that snack in mind when I go shopping, and stuff like that. So when people say, it is weird, but when people say Japanese people have, weird commercials, it is weird, but I think there is a reason for that because geinin are trying to sell themselves. They want to get more fans. They want to get more clicks.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're just doing what they have to, doing the most ridiculous and funny things to get attention, maybe.
Well, Takeshi's Castle, I think this was in the 80s, was a huge hit in the UK, for example. But it's a bit of a taboo topic in Japan for one reason or another. Maybe because of some injuries. I think some injuries happened during filming. But either way, in the UK, it was a massive hit. And the whole program is bloody strange.
Yeah, and Japanese, it is a weird country. Because if I wasn't Japanese, I would think, Japan is a very odd country.
Right.
Would you think that? Like, what, trying to, change my perspective, what kind of things would you think is is the weirdest?
The weirdest?
Yeah. Because there's a lot of weird things in Japan. And
it's just that people are really, really serious, right? That makes me feel a bit, I wouldn't say outsider, but a little bit left out from time to time.
Oh, and something that to add on to the YouTuber thing.
Yeah.
Some YouTubers come to Japan, do vlogs, and they go into these restaurants and cafes.
Maid cafes.
Yeah, maid cafes and those anime cafes. And they're like, oh my god, Japan's so funky. And they spread that kind of things to the world, basically, because they're YouTubers. And big YouTubers do that. So, and when I watch those videos, and I'm sure you watch those videos as well, when I watch them, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know that existed. That's a really weird place. Like, even Japanese people think that, and I feel like they're showcasing such a small, insignificant part of Japan. I don't know if I should say that, but
No, it's fine.
Or a rare part.
Of course.
Of Japan that it's not really representing Japan all too well. If you want to represent Japan, you should go to Tokyo Tower, Kinkakuji, or Mount Fuji, or stuff like that.
Or to the depths of Tottori Prefecture, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And yeah, the next one that was written on the article is
High-Tech Wonderland.
I think a lot of people think this.
Yes.
And living in America, a lot of people were like, oh, in Japan there's so many high-tech things, and there's so many cool gadgets, there's so many cool companies, and they're just a high-tech wonderland, basically.
I haven't seen any flying cars yet.
Really?
In Japan.
Oh.
Especially. The trains, though. Trains are high-tech, I'll give you that much.
What parts? I don't know, I might just...
Well, I mean, first on time, that's pretty high-tech.
That is true.
From a British point of view, especially.
That is true.
And if you're on a train, not any train in Tokyo, you got 2 TV screens above the door.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's quite rare, suffice to say.
And, the train thing, it's not about the technology, but about the cleanliness. It's super clean, isn't it? I've been on American trains.
Oh, the trains, yeah.
Yeah, they are filthy. I do not want to get on American trains. And in Japanese trains, it's really clean. They're on time. They're very punctual. And if they're 1 minute late, they're apologizing to someone. They're like, I'm so sorry. You got places to be. And they're very understanding, Japanese people. So I guess the train thing is high tech, the TV thing. And where we lived was I guess rural, not as urban as Tokyo, obviously.
Of course, Aichi Prefecture.
Yeah, and we didn't have TVs on top of the doors or anything, but we think that's kind of high tech as well, even though we're living in Japan.
Yes, that's right. With other things, well, in the description, it was interesting that in most parts, Japan's technology is lagging behind Japan or Korea at the moment. Sorry, not Japan, China or Korea. And it's difficult to argue with that because Chinese technology is at the forefront of the world.
And when when in elementary school, a lot of people said, like I said, oh, Japan is so high tech. I feel like they were talking about Japanese car companies because Japanese car companies are very, famous around the world. They're global. So I guess that comes from cars as well. And do you have any other, things that are like, oh, wow, this is very high tech?
Well, maybe. When it comes to paying in cash, that's pretty old school. In the US, mostly you do with credit card.
Yeah.
Right. And in China, you do it by phone. So when it comes to payment, Japan is the least technical.
That is true. We're kind of lagging behind. A lot of countries are cashless. And I guess Japanese people are still using cash. The majority of people, I would say, are still using cash. So it's not that high tech, but I wouldn't say a wonderland. So
I'll give a maybe.
And the next one, which kind of cracked me up, was Japanese people are bad at all sports except for sumo wrestling.
They're not even good at sumo wrestling.
Who's the guy that beat the Yokozuna?
Hakuho-san.
Yeah, who wasn't Japanese, right?
Was it? Well, it all seem to be Mongolian and Russian.
Yeah. Russians, you can never win against them. And Japanese people, would you say this is true?
Not really. I admire many, say, swimmers, basketball players. Not basketball. Baseball players, my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Golfers? One or two good golfers,
yeah.
I would say.
And
tennis players as well. I mean, Osaka Naomi, is she Japanese? We could talk about that.
The
cows come home.
I could kind of get into that, Osaka Naomi. I was going to talk about Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, okay.
So, a lot of people are like, oh, he's Japanese. He's representing Japan. But come on. you all know why he's popping. And same for Osaka Naomi. But Nishikori Ken and stuff like that. People like that, very impressive. But how's he doing at the moment? Do you know?
Mr. Nishikori?
Yeah. Is he falling off? I don't know anything about tennis, but I don't know if he's doing well or anything. And other sports. Oh, I was saying women's wrestling.
Ooh.
They were good.
Okay.
They were decently good. Who was it? Do you know her name?
Saori Yoshida?
Yeah, Yoshida Saori. She was really strong. And any other sports, maybe... Oh, table tennis. Japanese people are pretty good at.
Okay.
Some other sports. How about soccer?
Soccer is here and there, I would say. I think overall you could say there's no standout. Like there is, say, America with one of the...
Like basketball.
Basketball, exactly. But it's also true that there seem to be one or two at least in every sport that are absolutely outstanding.
I mean, I wouldn't say bad.
No.
I wouldn't say great.
Maybe.
But they're all right, I mean, like you said, in America, basketball, when it comes to like the World Cup, the U.S. team just demolishes every single team, and it's kind of unfair.
Right.
And that type of stuff doesn't really, happen in Japan. Oh, the Japanese are too strong. They're too overpowered. Nothing happens like that. So, we're not terrible, right? I would say.
Sure.
I mean, we're falling off on sumo, right? So, we got nothing to show now. This kind of goes into personality now.
Okay, personality tests.
Japanese people are polite. What do you think of that?
Polite, or are they serious? It can be a bit mixed, if you ask me.
That's a good question, actually.
Really?
Are they polite or are they serious? That's tough, actually, because they're just serious people that don't really talk to other people.
Right.
And that kind of makes them polite because they don't talk when unnecessary.
Right. So it gives them less chance to say ridiculous things.
Yeah. Basically that. And I don't know. A lot of people say Japanese people are polite. They are.
Okay.
I mean, Japanese people are polite. They say, the most common word is probably arigatou gozaimasu
Right.
and suimasen
Onegaishimasu.
and onegaishimasu. Basically, thank you. Can you please do this? And sorry.
Yes.
And that kind of makes Japan, it's kind of deflecting everything, I feel like.
Good point.
When someone says arigatou gozaimasu or onegaishimasu or suimasen.
You in the good.
Yeah, you're fine. Just say those things and you're kind of deflecting everything. And that kind of makes them polite, I guess. This is kind of getting, oh boy.
That's a tough burn to take, I would say.
And it's an interesting perspective to say, you're deflecting it, but I feel like that's the case. And I would say they're both polite and serious.
I would say it's a good mixture of those two, which culminates in the term polite.
Yeah.
In this case.
Mm-hmm. Just they say the same thing every time, and like sumimasen, they say it 1,000 times every day. Like, if the smallest of things, like, okay, if you say, okay, so if I'm opening the door, if we're both in an elevator and we're strangers,
Lift.
elevator,
Mm-hmm.
we're in the elevator, I'm opening the door for you, and then you're gonna say sumimasen arigatou gozaimasu, right?
Exactly.
You're saying I'm sorry, thank you.
Yes.
Which is very weird if you change it to English. You're saying I'm sorry, thank you, which is, it's surpassing polite, and it's just ridiculous if you ask me. You should just say thank you. Thank you is just normal, but why are you apologizing is the question here.
Why are you apologizing?
Why are you gay? Yeah, so why do Japanese people apologize all the time? And when I say that, I'm one of those people. It's just bashed into me from a young age when you're born and raised in Japan.
Yeah.
It's taught into you that you have to say sumimasen and arigatou gozaimasu and onegaishimasu, everything. And that those three are all keigo.
Yeah, teiningo, I would say.
Yeah, which is very polite language. You could say arigato, and I think I would say arigatou gozaimasu is thank you very much.
Yeah.
Arigato is thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're so polite and they say it all the time is basically what I'm trying to say.
I'm happy with that, yes.
Yeah, and the next one?
Japanese girls like and say the word kawaii.
Facts.
Okay, tell me about it.
Facts. So what kind of grinded my gears is at school, there would be a teacher that would be, I would say, 7-year-old guy teacher that teaches math.
Oji-san.
Yeah, oji-san. And every girl would call him kawaii.
Yes.
Why is that? Is the question that I always thought.
There will never be a convincing answer to this.
But, every Japanese girl says kawaii every 3 seconds. But, it's because I don't have an explanation. I don't know why I said it's because, but I believe it's because of his attitude, not attitude, but how the way he acts, is kind of kawaii. I don't know how to explain what kind of, things he's doing, but let's just say one day he forgets his notebook when he's a teacher. He comes to class and all the girls are like, kawaii.
Yeah.
Oh, you forgot. Kind of making fun of him when you really think about it.
Jeez.
Belittling him, but saying kawaii, and saying kawaii is saying, oh, that's so cute. So when you translate it to English, you're saying, as the teacher comes, oh shit, I forgot my notebook. and Americans would say "ha, bitch," but in America, not in, no, in Japan, they would say "oh, that's so cute," which is very weird when you translate it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but a lot of Japanese girls love to say kawaii.
It seems to me that whether it's cool, it's sick, it's nice, it's a bit sad, it can all be mumbled into kawaii, right?
That is true.
Right.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. In any situation, they just say kawaii, and the mood is fixed. That
Yeah.
situation is fixed.
In that sense, maybe arozamashita, all that polite stuff. Again, kawaii is another form of reflection, maybe. It's getting a bit philosophical, maybe.
Maybe, and they like saying kawaii, and they like kawaii things. What would you say a kawaii thing is? Very weird question, but
Isn't the answer? It depends on the person, isn't it?
well, it is.
Yeah.
But what would you say kawaii is? For me, it would be a puppy, but for you, it would be
Like a little Barbie doll, maybe.
kawaii.
Yes.
But for other people, it might be a 70-year-old guy who's probably single and is a teacher for math.
Yes.
It could be that. It depends on the person. So, it really depends on the person, of course. But Japanese people do say kawaii a lot.
Yeah, the taste in kawaii can be variable, to say the least.
And when it comes to what Japanese people say, like slangs, that could be a whole new episode. Like there's hundreds of things that Japanese young kids especially say, like sorena, majide, or things like that. Slangs, but we're not going to get into that, right?
Fair enough.
Moving on to the next one. Young Japanese people have no interest in dating or romance.
Well, in the description, it's mostly down to financial troubles rather than, quote unquote lack of interest per se. But compared to other mainly Mediterranean countries, I would say, there is an obvious lack of passion for love, wouldn't you?
I would say that's true, yeah. And when you say financial things, what would you say the age group? It says young Japanese people.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, up until what age?
Well, perhaps maybe 1 or 2 days after they done shukatsu, which means getting into a big company after graduating university mainly. At the moment, it feels like to me that people more want to make sure that they want to secure the financial status before they secure relationship status.
That is true, yeah. And gradually, the age, like when people get married, is kind of getting later and later, I would say. A while back, it was like 20, but now people are saying 30. And it's just getting pushed back. And it's going to get into a different issue. But because of this, Japanese people are saying, oh, I don't have to date. There's no need to. It's just going to be, a hassle, I guess.
Right.
And, because of this, not many kids are born. And then, our population is decreasing, basically.
Okay.
And, old people, live a long and healthy life in Japan.
Yes.
So, shoshikoreka. How would you say that?
Silver tsunami is the one that circulates around in the US. Yeah. Silver tsunami, most developed countries are facing at the moment, but Japan has it hard the most at the moment.
And they're young people, I guess babies aren't that born because, Japanese people are just saying, fuck it, and no kids are born. They're not getting married. They're getting stable just by themselves, and they're like, there's no need to date. And I guess there's no interest in romance, I would say. But we're talking about the after 20s. How about before the 20s?
I have no idea.
Would you say that young Japanese people have no interest in romance or dating?
Again, this is all just my perception, but I would say it's difficult. It's more little bit more tricky to get into a relationship, to set into an environment where you can mingle amongst different sexes compared to, say, Western nations.
You give a good point there. I feel like in America, this kind of goes into a different direction.
Yeah.
But in America, the barrier between the boys and the girls are very thin and little to none. And in Japan, there is a very thick, with like 13 C's, a very thick wall between boys and girls. Not letting them talk, not letting them, even have relationships really.
Right.
And when they do go over that wall, and when two different opposite sexes are in a relationship, Japanese kids, other people around them, tease them and say, ijiru.
Yes.
Kind of tease them and be like, oh, wow, you guys, well, how do you say ijiru?
Teasing's fine.
Teasing, yeah. They just, I guess people around them continue to tease them, be like, wow, saying like, in the hallway, damn, you guys are hella cute. And
Kawaii.
yeah, kawaii, and things like that. And it might sound not too bad, but it does probably get annoying.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends, I'm not gonna say any names, but a lot of my friends broke up for those reasons.
Oh, okay. I'm not aware of that.
Really. And because a lot of people around them, the people surrounding them, keep teasing them and just repetitively like teasing and saying stuff to them when they're just walking by, when they're just going home together. And I guess that just gets to them, and that kind of again creates a barrier between the boys and the girls, I would say.
Well, some high schools in Japan ban relationships just to begin with, right?
Really?
Yeah,
In some schools?
Some high schools are like that, yes.
Oh, wow. So to just prevent those kinds of drama, I guess?
Well, perhaps they don't want teenage pregnancy, maybe, but they always say it leads to problematic situations.
I mean, they're not wrong in America. Teenage pregnancy is kind of an issue, but that kind of wall. That's because that kind of wall isn't there. It's not non-existent, basically, and that seems much more fun. When I was living in America, I didn't really think about that. There's not much drama like that, but when I came to Japan, there's so much drama. There's so much drama, so much gossip, so much drama. She did this to him, and that went to him, and then bang. So much stuff. And kind of, connecting to this one, the next one says hides true feelings all the time, Japanese people.
Just because they want to avoid the gossip.
Maybe. And when I read this, you were nodding.
Yes.
But did you, relate to this, or?
Well, first and foremost, I quite rarely talk about my true feelings.
That's kind of deep. Oh, no.
I didn't mean to be...
You okay, bro?
Thanks, mate. I'm absolutely fine, thank you. During my junior high school, maybe I could argue that I didn't have any sort of deep moments. But then again, I didn't really talk about it that much. It was normally about how was the soccer game yesterday, the teacher, he's a bit of an asshole, whatever. So very superficial, you could say. So from my experience, I have to agree with that.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Yeah, so I guess Japanese people do hide their feelings, their true feelings, because of the, the arigatou gozaimasu, sumimasen, onegaishimasu. And they say, hai, yes, sir, to everyone and everything that happens to them, even if they don't want to do it. If it's from an elderly person or someone older than them, they can't say no, basically. So they have to hide their true feelings, basically, and say, yes, sir, I'll do that immediately. And that kind of hierarchy thing still exists in Japan. So I guess that is true, hiding feelings.
Being obedient and being able to say yes, sir, to most orders can be seen as a virtue most of the time. And being a good boy, good girl, whoever, that can lead to many positives in Japan, maybe.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I would say. And I'm gonna go to this one actually first.
Okay.
Japanese women are docile.
Yeah.
Would you agree with this?
Yes, subservient was the other word that was mentioned in the article. And I just want to bring up a quick story that I was having Japanese noodle soba near Akihabara. Not Akihabara, but the station next, so Asakusa-bashi, somewhere like that. And then I was quite shocked, but then again, maybe it was a typical Japanese moment that I'm not too sure what the relationship was. I think it was a sort of little company get-together of soba. And you had 2 dudes and 2 women. And every time the man had to say anything or the women want to ask something, the woman had to get off her chair and then be on her knees. One knee, sorry. Be on her knee.
Okay.
And then, so the woman looking up to this man and then listening to it. I didn't feel that comfortable. Then again, it was a typical Japanese scene, so I didn't think much of it.
That's typical? I never heard of that. So, wait, so...
Maybe not typical, but not surprising.
So, a dude was standing and then
the dude sat down always.
So, the girl is, on her knees? Like
on one knee, sorry.
On one knee.
Yeah.
And, like, what, saying, please, can you do this or something?
How can I say? Just whenever she was saying... Whenever she had to make a comment, I think she did that.
Really? I never heard of that.
Maybe it was just a one-off weird moment, but I can't help but think it was a typical Japanese moment.
Yeah, that is kind of Japanese, and unfortunately, that is kind of how it is in Japan, I would say. And I don't really want to go into that, right. But that kind of story is new to me, honestly. Okay. And do you have any other stories like that, or was that just too shocking?
No, I won't say it was shocking. Well, not all men want this kind of type of women, but some of the men do like kateiteki, the josei, meaning, well, direct translation would be like familial, sort of homestay, looking after the kids. That's just seen as a virtue, a woman who's virtuous, basically, and that stems attitudes that I saw at the soba restaurant. Maybe again, these are all speculation, of course.
A very interesting story,
really?
To be honest. Yeah, and I never experienced that kind of stuff, but me going into that,
right, fair enough.
I don't think I can I don't think I can say what I want to say, so I'm just gonna dip. And the last one?
Diligent and hardworking students, mainly.
This is true.
Okay.
I would say this is true because of, what we said in the last episode, I believe, saying that Japanese students, when they're in high school, middle school. Okay, so for middle school, they study for high school, getting into high school. And then in high school, they study really hard for college.
Yeah.
And then in college, of course, you study really hard for 4 years and stuff like that. That cycle continues. And they're just, I would say, diligent and hardworking is a really good word to describe Japanese people, and especially students.
Yeah. Well, I've mentioned this before, but being able to go to, especially Tokyo University, Kyoto University, those two are the hallowed turf, right? So once you get there, you're seen as the super kid in town.
So not just students, but also just Japanese people in general, adults as well, I would say is very hardworking. But, as well, on the flip side, you can say that they're forced to, this is kind of a different topic as well, zangyo, having to work after hours. And that type of stuff is regular in Japan. So, they're forced to work after hours.
Yeah, karoshi is a universally known word now.
Yeah, that is true. And, karoshi, when you say karoshi, suicide rates in Japan are relatively high. So I guess being diligent, being hardworking, the hierarchy system, the politeness, hiding their true feelings, all those 5 things kind of, stress Japanese people out, I would say.
Yeah, fair enough.
Kind of getting dark, but I would say that's true. Those things, not saying their true feelings and stuff like that, kind of gets to them, I guess.
Yeah. I have no problem agreeing with that, actually.
Yeah. So, this was, a
mixture of positive, sometimes funny, sometimes
kind of dark.
right.
These were some stereotypes
Yeah.
that the Culture Trip article.
A good mixture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a really good conversation talking about, Japanese stereotypes, seeing how we perceive them, kind of defending these, commercials and stuff. And I guess that was a pretty interesting conversation, I would say.
Yeah. You can listen or see even more great conversations on our Instagram and TikTok pages.
And be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And we do have another channel,
DTShorts.
Funny clips. So please subscribe to that as well.
Well, until then, take care.
And peace!